Okay, nearly forgot to make me month's prediction. What's your prediction, Andy? It's supposed to cool down next month. Given that summer came so late, I think it's not going to cool down. I think it's going to stay as hot as hell. And I'm actually tipping that it may get wet again, but we'll have to wait and see on that call. G'day folks, Andy here from McDowell Manor. All of my tomatoes were, you can't really see now, can you? All of my tomatoes were absolutely infested with ants. Farming scale, my friends, is why the aquaponics bed now looks pretty damn empty. I can't spray, obviously, because it's attached to the aquaponics system. So what I do is anything that's badly infested like that, I pull it out and get rid of it. That's the easiest answer. Probably doesn't exterminate the problem in the long term, but it does it in the short term, and that's what I care about. So there you go, 3rd of March, that was today's debacle. Oh, not to worry, look, I've got plenty of tomatoes over there. I'll move some of them into here, and well, after a little while, because I want to make sure I've gotten rid of that scale, which the ants are dutifully spreading over everything, God bless them. All right, well, that's the first thing I think for the month.
Well, it's the 4th today. I've been struck down by the man flu. I've tested negative for COVID. Rozzie's got me isolated in the main bedroom. And I don't blame her. Oh, gee whiz. Oh, it's man flu. I'm sure I'm about to expire. The good news is, though, that I'm in the palatial bedroom. Last time I got locked in the other one down the other end of the house, it had no interweb. So I'm a lot happier. I've got access to the fancy bathroom, the ensuite. That's the only one that ever got updated. So that's good. I don't have to spread me germs. Better, I've got access to the balcony. Rozzie's doing a sterling job of looking after me, I gotta say. As she does. God bless her cotton socks. Look at that, eh? Sheer bloody luxury. Well, it's the 4th. I'm back on my feet after yesterday's illness. Oh, nearly. 3 COVID tests, quite sure it's not COVID. Feeling still a bit poorly. I've definitely got a throat infection, so I will have to get to a doctor, but who cares? All good, eh? All good. You can't keep an old farmer down. Now, I doubt because of the vigorous activity you'll be able to see anything much, but I'm hoping you can get, when these guys eat, holy guacamole. I was hoping you'd at least hear it. So it is still hot. Today's Tuesday, the 5th or 6th, I forget. I think it's the 5th. No, it's the 6th. I'm bottling up some beer. That's what the empty bottles with sugar in are there. I've just finished playing with a rum batch. So I've got a new batch that's running through the charcoal filter, which is that one there. The chooks are out running around somewhere out there. Who knows? Maybe they've gone home. The door's open, so who knows? It's still hot. It was 35 degrees in my backyard this morning. Not real pleasant. I'm running sprinklers out the front. I'm generally doing in-house things. I'm pretty well, but just in case I'm not quite game to go down to the old gym club, in case I get everyone else crook. Don't want that happening. Everybody loves a mealworm. So the chooks are getting them. As you can see, the quails are going nuts over them. All of the cages of quails. Although the young are still trying to work it out. They're a bit dumber than most yet. Oh no, they're onto it now. That's good.
Honestly, I've heard noises I'd never heard these quails make until I gave them the worms. Same with the chickens. Look at them, loving it. Another thing I've been doing lately, I've got pumpkins, a couple of pumpkins on. That black box beside it is a rat bait. Oh, bloody empty again. You probably can't see. So I can't keep up with baits. Today's day 4 of baiting. You get 4 baits in a pack. I bought 2 packs. I'm completely out, so I've got to go up the shop before tonight and make sure there's more baits in there. I'm obviously hammering rats. I've had 4 bodies in my yard. So they're going into other people's yards looking for water. Buggers. The bloke Mark next door said to me, he said, "Oh, your rats are getting a few things, aren't they?" And I said, "Are they?" And he said, yeah, look down here. There was all my passion fruit bloody eaten down there, which was explaining why I wasn't getting passion fruits. The bloody rats were eating them. And then they started on me pumpkins, and he said, "Oh yeah, there was about 10 little baby pumpkins eaten down here." I thought, bloody hell, they've been doing it for a while and I haven't known. God, how rude. I pulled off a bit of sweet potato. That's a sweet potato I really like. It's a white one with purple skin. I'll see if I can get it to strike, and I'll put it in another grow bag. So I've always got a couple of grow bags of that on the go at any point in time. Really is a good one, that one. So I've tried a couple of bits. It's a bit salty for me. I've rinsed it, which helps a lot. So next time I would take the brine off. You know how I left it in the brine this time? Because I really didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was following what the book did. It's bloody good. Just a little bit salty. So we'll solve that next time. We'll take the brine off. So it's the 12th of March today. The girls are out in the backyard. What we still call the big dog's yard, even though we haven't had the big dogs probably for 10 years. Yeah, it's continued. It's not hot, but it's really humid. And as you can see, everything's damp. It's been sort of gently wet for, geez, about a week. Almost. So not real pleasant. Great weather for growing things. So most stuff's booming. Unfortunately, the lawn's included on that, as you can probably notice. But that's what's happening. I've been pretty busy on other things aside from the tiny farm, but as you can see, between my Ozzie and the weather, it pretty much manages a lot of itself. Ozzie does a lot out early in the mornings. There's still fruit on. We got our first lot of lemonades the other day. It's a wonderful producer. Can't recommend that. If you're in the subtropics, get yourself a lemonade. Got the first egg from what was the baby quails that are now hitting. Geez, there's a lot of dark birds down there, isn't there? They're all dark, except for that one little bloke over there. And he's real small, so he's not going to be allowed to breed. Now the other two that were a different colour, they've obviously reached maturity, because I am seeing a lot of evidence of damage. That's why these lighter birds are up here. That one hasn't got a terrible lot of damage, just a bit of blood around the front of its face. But this one took a huge hit. Seems to be repairing okay. But geez, he took a hit, that poor bugger. I was worried I was going to lose him or her. What it does make me realise is I've got no whites in that batch. So that's a big white. And those two cinnamons, I might have to do a breeding run on just those birds to see how they go. Well, as you can probably hear and see, she's fairly bucketing down. So I've got the computers are disconnected completely from the wall. The air conditioning's turned off at the power. Blowing quite on an angle too. Wow, okay, so I didn't quite expect it to end up this big. Woo, that's a fair old bit of water, isn't it? Oh well, all good. Now begins the patrol. We keep an eye on what gutters have managed to block themselves up. Go out in the wet and free them up. You can see the water sitting on top of those chairs under a plastic cover. I know we've still got at least an hour of this to go. We've only had 8.6 mil, which isn't too bad. You can see it's almost 90% humidity outside now. And she's raining. Now that's our spillway down the bottom of the street. Normally that's completely empty. So yeah, there's certainly been a hell of a lot of water. That's the same spillway half an hour later. Honestly, I just went up the shop and now I'm on my way home and there's no water there at all. Incredible, isn't it? One of the less glamorous sides of farming I've discovered, even tiny city farming, is the critters won't wait. You need to get out twice a day and look after those critters. At least twice a day to check them for water and food. So luckily, the rain has stopped at the moment. But I've got to say, I'm in wet bloody sandals, squelching around the yard. It's probably not the activity I'd do as a matter of choice. Oh, they don't show that on telly, do they? No. So one of the things I've been doing in the heat is taking off bits of sweet potato and striking them. I'll plant that out in the garden bed. Now don't ordinarily plant sweet potato lightly because they have a tendency to take over and you'll never get rid of it. This is a bed I've got nothing else I can do with it. Isn't that a pretty little rose I picked for my Ozzie? Well, there you go, folks. See, I'm not just a farming bum. I'd like to try and get my garlic in. We'll see. I'd like to try and get the sweet potato cutting that I got there planted as well, but we'll see. That can wait. The garlic really should go in sometime today. To start and soak my elephant garlic from last year in some seaweed for 24 hours prior to planting. And I realised, luckily I got all 3 stages of the life cycle here, so I thought I'd show you and remind you how elephant garlic grows. I'm in the subtropics, just bear that in mind. This may not be true for other climate zones. What you're looking at right there is corms, C-O-R-M-S, corms. Plant them and they will turn into rounds, often by the end of the next season. But if you're really lucky, what will happen is some of those rounds will actually bud up and turn into big fat cloves of garlic, which you can also plant, and you should get either rounds or, yeah, usually you'll only get rounds, but if you're real lucky, to go back to cloving. Now when you dig around, as you take the plant out, that's when you'll find a lot of these corms, and you always do have a dig around and you pull them out because, like I say, they're virtually seeds, so they'll turn into them next time. So there you go, there's a short explanation of elephant garlic, folks. So on St. Patrick's Day I did indeed plant my garlic out in here. Let's hope it does some good because it's doing nothing so far. Yeah, it's hot. So 40.8 outside. Holy dooly, it's hot. We're on Patrick's Day, 17th. I've got some unplanned and planned activity that will need to go ahead regardless of the heat. Let's show you what they are. I deliberately set my system up so it's got 2 pumps. Oh, that might be better. This one up this end goes down there, straight back up into the big bed, which as you can see is bone dry, because that pump had died. Then there's a little pump up this end, and there's its power cord, that keeps these little grow beds going. Hopefully you can see. Oh look, that one stopped. Oh no, it's still going. So whilst I've lost stuff, a pump, the spare pump has kept it running long enough for me to get to a shop and get a new pump, which is good. Now I caught off the old one. So what I'm going to try and do is attempt to pull the old pump out and have a look at it inside now that I've gotten rid of the immediate problem. I doubt I'll be able to fix it because I did everything that was obvious. And that's the cable for the new one, which I'm about to go and plug in. Hopefully the aquaponics big bed will start up. Thank goodness for that. There we go. She started. Oh, I should be right. That's great. I'll have to check that that's cycling. I want to get the hell out of the heat. Hopefully you can see some of the sweat. Oh, I was only out there. Oh, too fast, Andrew. I was only out. Look at that shirt. Oh my lord. I was out there for all of about 10 minutes. Look at me. Oh, I don't know if you can see it on my head there. Oh, bloody hell. 10 minutes, and that's what 41 degree heat does, folks. Box. Now, I want to be clear, I neither promote or work with or anything else this brand. That just happens to be what I buy from the local hardware store. So no affiliation whatsoever. And in fact, I'm going to give them a little bit of stick because they've got a 2-year warranty on these pumps. In my experience, they last somewhere between 2 to 5 years, if you're lucky. They're reasonably cost, about 140 Australian dollars, so 10 cents American. It's not quite true, but you get the idea. Yeah, reasonable cost. It's probably the other reason I buy them. They last, certainly for years. So I'm not suggesting for a second that they're rubbish, and they certainly do the job while they're working. And I'll have a play with the old one and see if I can work out what went wrong. I'll show you. This one is where my output comes from. So that runs up and that goes into the big bed. On the front here, I screw a big, long tube with holes. It's got a special screw. It's made for this. And it's got a big square sponge filter on it. Usually you know when it's time to clean it out because you'll notice your output slows down a little bit, and I'll give that. Usually it's as simple as give the filter a clean. Well, this time it didn't work. The motor's still running. I can feel it running, but she's not pumping any water. I've checked inside where the impeller is. Doesn't seem to be that. So I'm going to have a look in here. I'll obviously have to put it in some water. I'll turn it on and see if I can see down from the top and work out whether that impeller's spinning or not. Even the cold tap water, I'm just giving it time to get rid of the air. Even the cold tap water feels tepid and sort of hot. God, it was a hot shocker today. So just about that pump, I completely forgot about it till now. I ordered a new impeller and put it in place, and guess what? Fixed the whole problem. The pump's as good as new. So I've now got a spare. Next time a pump breaks, I'll just put the old one in service. I'll buy a new impeller for the new one, and we should be back on track. How good is that? That'll save me a fortune. 40 bucks compared to bloody 120 bucks is a fair whack of difference. 4 o'clock, so I'm just cleaning up around the aquaponics system down this end here. That begonia, I pulled a hell of a lot out. In a sense, I like it because it's going to be filtering that dirty water from the aquaponics bed. So I'm not going to rip it out completely. I'll leave some of it there to act as a filter. But I am going to keep it a lot more pruned back because it's really handy being able to get in here. For example, I've discovered from this side, my native lime has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 native limes on it. Now I thought it had 1. From the other side you can barely see them. And I've also found a whole lot of the dead stuff from last time that I couldn't access. So I'm going to cut that off and throw it in the pizza oven so it gets burned, because you can see how bloody spiky this stuff is. Fair dinkum. Wow. They should use this on top of fences around jails. Wow, look at that fermenter bubble. So that's a spirit ferment. That'll become rum eventually. Look at it go. That's carbon dioxide as the yeast consumes the sugars. So it's the 19th today. It's still hot, but they tell us that we're about to have a cool change, which will be very welcomed, quite frankly. I was in that little gap, but of course that meant I could never maintain properly this end of the aquaponics. So a whole lot of that begonia I've been able to pull out now. I want to keep some of it because it's filtering the water for me. There you go. Typical bloody permaculture principles. What could be a problem turn into a benefit, and that's exactly what I've done. Yeah, much better. This whole area now I can make sure there's no rats, keep an eye out for snakes, all that sort of stuff. Much better answer, Andy. And I can actually get to this end of the aquaponics. It's native finger lime. It's a rainforest understory plant. Sorry about the sun. Understory plant. So what I've done, and it's ended up, I moved the pot from near the aquaponics. And the only thing that worried me about that was, well, I pour dirty quail water into it, so it's always watered. Well, it's right on an irrigation line, so it should still get well and truly watered. So believe it or not, even in the 35-degree heat, it's actually quite pleasant if you're in the shade and there's a bit of a breeze blowing, which, as you can probably see, is the case in this Japanese garden. I don't even need the air conditioning on. I can just sit out here very cool and comfy. How good is that? I must put water. Oh, I know why there's no water in the fountain. Some lazy bugger hasn't fixed his outlet pipe yet. Oh geez, another job, Andy. I've been playing with the chainsaw and took off a lot of the low stuff on the footpath side of that mango. Remember there's that retaining wall behind, which is where I get up on to pick the back, so I'm not so concerned about its height yet. Sometime probably August, maybe even a little earlier, late July, I'll come along and take some of the top just to reduce the height of it, because I want to keep it at about 3 metres. Now my happy answer is just throw all the bloody cuttings down there on the garden, because I'll break down eventually, but I'm willing to put money on the fact Ozzie will come home and get into me and I'll have to move all that. Bloody hell. Anyway, not to worry. There you go, another fun chore. I don't mind doing it even in 35 degrees, because guess what? It's shady there. To show you, turmeric actually has quite a pretty flower. Now unfortunately I left it too late and most of the flowers are now dead. You can see they're much bigger than that little one I showed you, and they really are quite pretty. So not only is it good to eat, but it's got its own little sense of prettiness at the right time of year as well. It's really hot. I put frozen bottles of water in. Now they do seem to work it out, which is great. Now, the other thing obviously you got to do is you up the amount of times you check their water.
The expert tips to make fresh produce last not days but weeks.
Fresh food fanatic Andrew Cumberland is waging a war on waste.
And it's not hard work. None of this is, if it was hard work, I wouldn't do it.
He's an expert in making fruit and veggies last not just days but weeks. Like lettuce with the root cut off and stored in a sealed bag will last up to 3 weeks. So too, spinach leaves in a container with paper towel.
Air is not your friend. It's got to be in a sealed container. Okay, so we're wrapping up. What's the prediction for next month, Andy? Well, we've lost a month of autumn, or fall, wherever you live, and it was summer. It wasn't autumn. So I do actually predict that midway through April, we should get a bit cooler. Well, significantly cooler, because it's been ridiculous this month. And I think the rain will back off. And then I think the month after that, we're going to be trying to ration water. But we'll wait and see, shall we? All right, well, if you enjoyed these clips, just feel free to hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch up with you either next month or in some other crazy antics clip. Hooroo!